Hello everybody, welcome back to another Scratch tutorial. Today we're going to be working with Projectile Basics. To start off, I'm going to name my project Projectile Basics. This video will cover basic things such as making a projectile move, hitting an enemy, changing enemy health, and that will be pretty much it for today. In another video, we will probably cover making projectiles do different damage. Now, let's name the Scratch Cat player for simplicity. There we go. We're also going to add in a sprite called Projectile. And we're going to set the costume to ball, because that's the simplest one I can think of for a projectile. So let's search ball, and let's just use ball A. And then we're going to add in... Why is it not... There we go. We're going to add in another sprite. And this one's going to be our enemy. It's going to be called Beetle. So we're going to rename it to enemy. Let's just save now, because we have all our things. Let's set our projectile size to 50 so it's more reminiscent to that of a normal projectile. For this project, we're going to have Scratch Cat be right here. You can add in any other script that you want to add, such as a movement script, which would probably be very useful in most projects with shooting mechanics. Now, normally what people will do is they'll have the script and they'll put it in, they'll have the if mouse down or if touching or if key space pressed, and then it'll wait until it's not down. And they'll have it in the Scratch Cat or the player. You're not going to want to have that unless it's a separate script. And even then, it's a lot easier to just put it in the projectiles, because it'll pause the script if it's in the movement script, or it'll have to broadcast a message, and that's not necessarily difficult. It's easy, but you want to have less scripts. You want to make it smaller, more compact. So we're going to have the script inside of the projectile. We're going to drag in a green flag clicked block, and then we're going to put in a hide, because you don't want your projectiles to show until you're shooting them. And then we're going to add in a forever, and then it's going to go to player, and then it's going to point towards the mouse pointer, and then we're going to add in our firing script. We're going to put in if, and this can be either mouse down or it can be a key. I'm going to be using mouse down because that's what I'm comfortable with. And then we're going to put in a wait until block. Not there. We're going to put it right there. And drag in a not and put it in the slot in the wait until. And then you're going to duplicate your key space pressed or mouse down and put it in that not slot. Not slot. And then you're going to, after that, you're going to have it create a clone of itself. And when I start I almost forgot to mention. If you want there to be a delay between shots, you can add in a wait 1 second, and this can be any value you want. I'm just going to leave it out because I don't want to have a delay. And we're going to start working on the when I start as a clone script. Now, as I told you earlier, the script will be paused if this has the wait until not mouse down block, so these will not work. And as such, we're going to drag them out of the forever loop and put them to the when I start as a clone block. That way, whenever it starts as a clone, it'll go to the player and it'll point towards mouse pointer. We're also going to want to drag in a show block so that way you can see your projectile. And you're going to want to drag in a repeat until block, and we're going to put in touching edge. So you're going to get the touching mouse pointer and change it to touching edge. And it's going to move 10 steps. And once it touches the edge, it's going to delete the clone. The reason why this works is because once it has touched the edge, this script will stop and it'll go to the next block. And it'll go, then, since the next block is delete this clone, it will delete the clone. Let's see it in action. As you can see, it goes smoothly. But what we want it to also do is if it's touching the enemy, we want the enemy to be affected by it. Or we want the ball to disappear if it's touching the enemy as well. Let's just drag the enemy up here. Now, inside the when I start as a clone script, we're going to drag in an OR block. We're going to put the touching edge in the first slot of the OR block. And we're going to take another touching block, and we're going to set it to touching enemy and drag it into the second OR slot, and then place that back in the repeat until script. As you can see, it hits the enemy, and I'm just going to speed it up. It hits the enemy and it disappears. Now, we're going to have the enemy disappear whenever it's touching projectiles. Now, when green flag clicked, we're going to have this create clones of itself. So, forever, and we're going to want the original sprite to hide. So let's put in a hide. Forever, and we're going to have it wait 3 seconds in between spawning clones. So whenever I start, it'll create a clone of itself. And now when it starts as a clone, we're going to add in a basic script for it to follow. Forever, it will, well, we're going to want it to show, of course, whenever it starts. So put in a show, and forever, we'll have it move 10 steps, and if it's touching the edge, it'll bounce. So let's see that. There. And now we have several beetles. And we can shoot them. But it doesn't do anything. They don't delete or they don't take damage. Let's also have them go to a random position as well. That way we can have some variety and make them move 5 steps as well, so we can hit them better. Let's see. We're going to add in a script saying, if touching projectiles, and this will be what happens whenever it touches the bullet. Now, if you want it to delete the clone, this is easy. We're just going to drag in a delete this clone block. But this brings up another problem. As you can see, the bullet itself doesn't delete whenever it hits it. So we're going to add in a delay. We're going to have it wait 0.01 seconds before it deletes itself. So that way it can register, the bullet can register it as touching the enemy, and the enemy can also register as touching the bullet, and they both delete at about the same time. Now, most people, they want to have an enemy health bar. So we're going to do that. Let's add in a variable called enemy health and set it for this sprite only. We're going to do that because, and this is kind of hard to explain. We're also going to delete my variable. This is kind of hard to explain. So let me put it in the simplest terms I can think of. Say you have 2 clones with health. One clone, or both clones started off with 3 health, and you hit one clone 2 times, and you hit the other clone 0 times. The one you hit 0 times will have 3 health, but the other one that you hit twice will have only 1. This is what you want. And this can be accomplished using this sprite only selection. Now, whenever it starts as a clone, we're going to have it set its enemy health to 3. You can set it to whatever you want. It can be 100, it can be 1. Although that's kind of a more complex version of just the delete this clone. Now, if touching projectile, we're going to want to add in an if block. And it's going to be if enemy health is less than 1, it'll wait 0.1 seconds and delete this clone. We're also going to have a change enemy health by -1 before that. So change enemy health by -1, and if enemy health is less than 1, then delete the clone. We'll see this now, and let me actually make something simpler for us. Let's add in a say block, and now it will always say its health when we put that there. Now we can see it. It says it has 3 health, 2, 1, and 0. Now, what was I gonna say? It's alright. Oh, there we go. You may be wondering why I have a less than 1 instead of an equals 0 block. Well, I've had a couple problems before in which when I set it to equal 0, if it takes more damage, like let's say 2 projectiles hit it at the same time and it goes to -1, then you can't kill it. It just stays at -1 and it keeps going lower and lower. So we're just gonna have it like that. So that's pretty much it. That's your entire script for enemies and projectiles, just these 2 things. We pretty much didn't even need the scratch cat. If you wanted, you could just set the projectile to start at a random position when it spawned. Now, I want to disclose something about why I haven't posted in a couple weeks. Things have gotten really busy with school and testing. We're nearing the end of the school year, and so we're testing a lot more, getting ready for our final tests. I hope y'all understand, and I also hope that y'all have a good day. See y'all later.